In the year 2147, Earth was a world transformed. Towering cities stretched into the clouds, their glassy surfaces reflecting the golden light of the sun. Cars no longer rolled on roads but floated silently through the air, powered by clean energy that left the skies blue and clear. Hunger and disease were things of the past, wiped out by advancements in science and medicine. Humanity had conquered its own planet and now looked to the stars with bold ambition. Colonies dotted the moon and Mars, and ships traveled far beyond the reaches of the solar system. It seemed like nothing could stop humanity from achieving even greater heights. But beneath this glittering surface of progress lay something darker, something forgotten. Centuries ago, before skyscrapers pierced the heavens and machines did humanity's bidding, there were people who lived close to the land. These elders, wise men and women from cultures scattered across the globe, spoke of warnings passed down through generations. They told stories of the Skyborn, beings who would one day descend from the heavens not as friends, but as conquerors. According to these tales, the Skyborn would come to claim Earth for themselves, leaving nothing behind but ash and ruin. Back then, people listened to these warnings, carving them into stone tablets or weaving them into songs that echoed through the ages. But over time, those voices faded. The prophecies became myths, dismissed as superstition by a society that believed itself invincible. Ryan Carter sat at his desk, surrounded by piles of dusty books and ancient scrolls. A historian by trade, Ryan spent most of his days buried in research, piecing together fragments of forgotten knowledge. His latest project focused on pre-colonial civilizations, particularly their beliefs about the cosmos. He wasn't sure what he hoped to find. A groundbreaking discovery? A new perspective on history? Or maybe just something interesting enough to write about for his next book? Whatever it was, he felt drawn to these old stories, as if they held secrets waiting to be uncovered. As Ryan flipped through a brittle manuscript written in a language few could read anymore, he noticed something unusual. Several passages mentioned strange lights appearing in the sky, followed by destruction and chaos. At first glance, it sounded like a natural disaster, an asteroid impact or volcanic eruption, but something about the descriptions didn't quite fit. The text referred to beings of fire and metal descending from above, consuming everything in their path. Intrigued, Ryan dug deeper, cross-referencing similar accounts from other cultures. To his surprise, he found echoes of the same story repeated all over the world. Different names, different details, but always the same core idea: invaders from the sky. Ryan decided to share his findings with someone who might understand their significance better than he did. That someone was Clara Wells, an astrophysicist, working at a deep space observatory located high in the mountains. Clara was known for her sharp mind and relentless curiosity, traits that made her stand out even among her brilliant colleagues. When Ryan called her late one evening, she agreed to meet him without hesitation. Something in his voice told her this wasn't just another academic theory. It was urgent. The two met the following morning in Clara's office, which overlooked the sprawling array of telescopes outside. Ryan laid out his notes, pointing out the recurring themes in the texts. Clara listened intently, her brow furrowed in thought. When he finished speaking, she leaned back in her chair and sighed. "It's fascinating," she said slowly. "But you know how hard it is to convince anyone to take this seriously. People will say it's just folklore." "I know," Ryan replied. "But what if it's not? What if there's truth to it? Look at this." He pulled up images from one of Clara's recent observations, a cluster of unidentified objects moving steadily toward Earth from beyond the Kuiper Belt. They weren't comets or asteroids. Their trajectories were too precise, too deliberate. Clara had flagged them as anomalies weeks ago, but higher-ups at the observatory had brushed them off as glitches in the equipment. Clara stared at the screen, her heart pounding. She hadn't connected the dots until now. Could these objects really be what Ryan was suggesting? Alien ships? The thought sent a chill down her spine. Still, doubt lingered. "Even if we're right," she said finally. Who's going to believe us? We don't have proof. Just patterns in old stories and some blurry data points. Ryan nodded grimly. We need to try anyway. If we're wrong, fine. But if we're right, he trailed off, letting the weight of his words sink in. Determined to make their case, Ryan and Clara compiled their evidence into a report and presented it to the United Earth Defense Force, UEDF, the military organization responsible for protecting humanity's interests both on and off-world. The UEDF headquarters was a sprawling complex filled with bustling officers and cutting-edge technology. Despite their best efforts, however, Ryan and Clara struggled to get anyone to take them seriously. General Lewis, the commanding officer, overseeing planetary defense, listened politely but ultimately waved them away. We appreciate your concern, he said dismissively, but we've got bigger problems to deal with. Our systems are ready for anything that comes our way. Frustrated but unwilling to give up, Ryan and Clara turned to the media, hoping public pressure might force the UEDF to act. Their interviews sparked mild interest, but skepticism quickly overshadowed any sense of urgency. Most dismissed their claims as alarmist nonsense, especially since life on Earth continued uninterrupted. After all, humanity had faced countless threats throughout history and always emerged victorious. Why should this be any different? Meanwhile, outposts stationed near Pluto began reporting strange activity. The mysterious objects detected earlier were growing closer, emitting faint signals that defied explanation. Pilots patrolling the outer rim described seeing flashes of light and hearing eerie hums over their comms. Some even claimed to have witnessed shadowy shapes darting between the stars. Reports trickled in sporadically, but the UEDF remained hesitant to escalate the situation. Instead, they chalked it up to sensor malfunctions and ordered routine maintenance checks. Then came the day everything changed. Without warning, the alien fleet arrived. Thousands of sleek metallic ships descended upon Earth's orbit, blocking out the sun and casting long shadows across the continents below. Panic erupted as global communications networks went dark, plunging entire cities into silence. Satellites blinked out one by one, severing humanity's connection to space. The UEDF scrambled to respond, launching squadrons of fighter ships, armed with state-of-the-art weapons. Among the pilots sent into battle were Jake Monroe and Mia Foster, two seasoned veterans tasked with defending Earth against an enemy they barely understood. Jake was brash and fearless, famous for his daring maneuvers during training exercises. Mia, on the other hand, was calm and calculating, preferring strategy over spectacle. Together they formed a formidable team, though their personalities often clashed. As they soared into the void, adrenaline coursing through their veins, neither could have imagined the horrors awaiting them. The Valith, the name given to the alien invaders, were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Their ships moved with unnatural speed and precision, evading attacks with ease. Worse still, they seemed capable of regenerating after sustaining damage, repairing themselves within seconds. Conventional tactics proved useless, and wave after wave of human fighters fell victim to the relentless assault. Jake narrowly escaped death multiple times, his instincts keeping him alive when logic failed. Mia, meanwhile, managed to gather valuable data about the Valith's biology, transmitting it back to Earth before retreating with the surviving fleet. Back on the ground, Ryan and Clara watched the unfolding catastrophe with mounting dread. Humanity had ignored the Elders' warnings, dismissing them as mere legends. Now, facing extinction at the hands of an unstoppable foe, they realized the terrible cost of their arrogance. But it was too late to undo the past. All they could do now was fight, to survive, to protect their home, and to prove that even in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity refused to surrender. And so, the stage was set for a battle unlike any other. Not just a clash of armies, but a test of resolve, ingenuity, and the enduring spirit of a species determined to prevail against all odds. The first encounter with the Valith was chaos. Humanity had been warned, by Ryan and Clara, by the Elders' ancient prophecies, but no one had truly believed it would happen. Now, as thousands of alien ships filled the skies, disbelief turned into panic. The sleek metallic vessels moved with a precision that seemed almost mechanical, yet there was something alive about them. Their surfaces shimmered like liquid metal, shifting and rippling as if they were breathing. When they fired their weapons, beams of blinding light tore through Earth's defenses, leaving trails of destruction in their wake. Jake Monroe tightened his grip on the controls of his fighter ship, his knuckles white against the dark interior of the cockpit. He was part of the first wave sent to intercept the invaders, and already, things were going badly. The UEDF had deployed hundreds of fighters, each armed with plasma cannons and EMP devices designed to disable enemy systems. But none of it worked. The Valith ships absorbed every shot, their hulls repairing themselves within seconds. It was as if humanity's most advanced weapons were nothing more than pebbles thrown at an ocean. "Fall back." Mia Foster's voice crackled over the comms, sharp and commanding. She was leading her squadron in a desperate retreat after losing half their numbers in minutes. Jake hesitated, watching as another pilot, a rookie named Alex, was engulfed by a burst of energy from a Valith drone. His ship exploded in a flash of orange and red, debris scattering into the void. Jake clenched his jaw, anger bubbling inside him. He wanted to stay, to fight back, but he knew Mia was right. Charging blindly into battle wasn't bravery, it was suicide. Reluctantly, Jake followed Mia's orders, pulling his ship into a tight turn and accelerating away from the swarm of Valith drones. Behind him, the aliens gave chase, their movements eerily synchronized. Jake's heart pounded as he pushed his ship to its limits, weaving between asteroids and debris fields in an attempt to lose them. For a moment, it seemed to work. The drones slowed, their glowing forms fading into the distance. But then, without warning, they reappeared, closing the gap in seconds. Jake cursed under his breath, realizing they weren't just tracking him, they were predicting his moves. "Mia." "I've got company," Jake said, his voice tense. "They're faster than we thought." "I see them," Mia replied calmly. "Stay close to me. We'll use the asteroid field to our advantage." Jake glanced at his radar, spotting Mia's ship ahead. She was already diving toward a cluster of massive rocks, her maneuvers precise and calculated. Trusting her judgment, Jake followed, dodging chunks of floating debris as the Valith drones pursued them relentlessly. One of the drones clipped the edge of an asteroid, sending shards of rock spiraling into space. Jake seized the opportunity, looping around to fire a volley of plasma shots at the damaged drone. To his surprise, it faltered, its regenerative abilities momentarily disrupted by the impact. "Gotcha," Jake muttered, a grin spreading across his face, but his triumph was short-lived. The other drones adjusted their formation, surrounding him from all sides. Jake's ship rocked violently as a beam grazed its wing, forcing him to break off his attack. He cursed again, frustration boiling over. No matter how hard he tried, the Valith always seemed one step ahead. Mia noticed his struggles and swooped in to cover him, firing a series of rapid bursts to drive the drones back. "Focus, Jake," she said firmly. "We can't win this alone. Our job is to gather intel and get out alive." Jake nodded, swallowing his pride. Mia was right. He couldn't let his emotions cloud his judgment. Taking a deep breath, he scanned the battlefield, looking for any weakness in the Valith's defenses. That's when he saw it, a faint glow emanating from the center of one of the larger ships. It pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat, and seemed to be connected to the smaller drones swarming around it. Jake's instincts kicked in. Whatever that glow was, it had to be important. "Mia, do you see that?" he asked, pointing his ship toward the source of the light. "It's like a core or something." Mia studied the image on her screen, her brow furrowed in concentration. "It might be a power source," she said slowly. "If we can get close enough to analyze it, we might find a way to disable them." "Let's do it," Jake said, his earlier frustration replaced by determination. Together, they broke away from the main engagement, flying low and fast to avoid detection. The Valith ships were preoccupied with overwhelming Earth's remaining forces, giving Jake and Mia a narrow window of opportunity. As they approached the glowing core, Jake felt a strange sensation wash over him. It wasn't fear exactly, but something deeper, an instinctive awareness that they were dealing with something far beyond human understanding. The Valith weren't just machines, they were alive, their bodies fusing organic tissue with advanced technology. Every movement, every decision, seemed guided by a collective intelligence, a hive mind that operated on levels humanity couldn't comprehend. Mia activated her ship's scanning equipment, capturing as much data as possible before the Valith detected their presence. "Got it," she said triumphantly. "Now let's get out of here." But the Valith weren't so easily fooled. As soon as Mia completed the scan, a wave of drones descended upon them, cutting off their escape route. Jake and Mia exchanged a glance, both knowing they wouldn't make it out unscathed. Thinking quickly, Mia fired a decoy missile, creating a diversion that allowed them to slip past the drones. They raced back toward Earth's atmosphere, their ships battered but intact. Back at the UEDF Command Center, General Lewis watched the live feed of the battle with growing unease. Despite his earlier dismissal of Ryan and Clara's warnings, even he couldn't deny the severity of the situation. Entire squadrons had been wiped out in a matter of hours, and the Valith showed no signs of slowing down. The general clenched, his fists, frustration and guilt weighing heavily on him. He should have listened. He should have prepared. Ryan and Clara were waiting anxiously when Jake and Mia returned, their faces pale but resolute. Without wasting time, Mia handed over the data she had collected, explaining what they had discovered about the Valith's biology. Clara immediately began analyzing the information, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she processed the scans. Ryan paced nervously behind her, his mind racing with possibilities. "This changes everything," Clara said finally, turning to face the group. "The Valith aren't just machines, they're biomechanical organisms, and their regenerative abilities are tied to a central frequency emitted by their cores. If we can disrupt that frequency, we might be able to stop them." "How do we do that?" Jake asked, leaning forward eagerly. Clara hesitated, glancing at Ryan. "We need to look deeper into those prophecies you found," she said. "There might be clues hidden in the Elder's warnings, something we missed before." Ryan nodded, determination flashing in his eyes. "I'll go back to the archives. There has to be something there that can help us." As everyone dispersed, to focus on their tasks, a sense of urgency settled over the room. Time was running out. The Valith were advancing rapidly, their ships descending closer to Earth with each passing hour. Cities burned, communications remained severed, and millions of lives hung in the balance. Yet amidst the chaos, a glimmer of hope remained. Humanity had faced impossible odds before, and somehow, they had always found a way to survive. For now, that hope rested in the hands of a historian, an astrophysicist, and two pilots who refused to give up. Together, they carried the weight of the world on their shoulders, driven by a shared determination to protect their home. And though the road ahead was uncertain, one thing was clear: humanity would not go down without a fight. Ryan Carter boarded a transport ship early the next morning, his mind racing with questions. The data Mia and Jake had brought back from their encounter with the Valith offered a glimmer of hope, but it also raised new challenges. If the aliens' regenerative abilities were tied to a central frequency, then disrupting that frequency might give humanity a fighting chance. But how? And where could they find the answers? Clara had suggested looking deeper into the ancient prophecies, the same ones Ryan had been studying for weeks, but this time, he needed more than dusty manuscripts and fragmented texts. He needed living voices, people who still carried the Elder's wisdom in their hearts. The journey took him far from the chaos of Earth's crumbling cities to remote regions untouched by modern civilization. Here, nestled in dense jungles and rugged mountains, lived communities that had preserved their ancestors' knowledge through generations. These tribes had resisted the pull of technological advancement, choosing instead to honor the old ways. Ryan knew it wouldn't be easy to gain their trust. Outsiders were rarely welcomed, especially ones bearing tales of doom. But he had no choice. Time was running out. After days of travel, Ryan arrived at a village hidden deep within a rainforest. The air was thick with humidity, and the sounds of wildlife echoed all around him. A group of villagers stood at the edge of the clearing, watching him cautiously as he approached. Among them was Aidan Brooks, a linguist who had spent years working with indigenous cultures. Aidan had agreed to accompany Ryan, knowing his skills would be invaluable in bridging the gap between worlds. "Let me do the talking," Aidan whispered as they stepped closer to the villagers. "They don't take kindly to strangers." Ryan nodded, letting Aidan take the lead. After exchanging greetings in the tribe's native language, Aidan explained their purpose. He spoke carefully, emphasizing respect for their traditions while conveying the urgency of the situation. At first, the villagers seemed hesitant, their expressions unreadable. But as Aidan continued, one of the elders, a woman named Nala, stepped forward. Her eyes were sharp, her presence commanding. "You seek the song of creation," she said in halting English, her voice steady and deliberate. Ryan blinked in surprise. "You know about it?" Nala nodded slowly. "It is not a song for singing. It is a pattern, a harmony found in the earth itself. Our ancestors spoke of it as a weapon against the skyborn." Ryan felt a surge of excitement mixed with apprehension. This was exactly what they needed, a way to fight back against the Valith. But before he could ask more, Nala raised a hand, silencing him. "To learn of the song, you must prove your worth," she said. "Stay with us. Learn our ways. Only then will we share what you seek." Over the next several days, Ryan immersed himself in the tribe's rituals and teachings. He learned to listen, not just with his ears, but with his whole being. The villagers taught him how to feel the vibrations of the earth beneath his feet, how to recognize the subtle rhythms of nature. They showed him carvings etched into stone, tablets depicting scenes of harmony and destruction. Slowly, piece by piece, the puzzle began to come together. According to the elders, the song of creation wasn't a literal melody, but a harmonic resonance unique to Earth. It represented the planet's natural frequencies, the invisible threads that connected all life. When harnessed correctly, these frequencies could disrupt unnatural forces, like the biomechanical systems of the Valith. The key lay in understanding the specific patterns required to trigger the resonance. Aidan worked tirelessly alongside Ryan, translating the elders' words and helping interpret the symbols on the tablets. Together, they pieced together fragments of information, creating a rough blueprint for the device Clara would need to build. By the time they left the village, Ryan felt both humbled and inspired. For the first time, he truly understood the depth of the elders' wisdom and the weight of the responsibility now resting on his shoulders. Back at the observatory, Clara Wells pored over the notes Ryan and Aidan had brought back. Her team worked around the clock, combining ancient knowledge with cutting-edge science to design a device capable of broadcasting the song of creation across the planet. The concept was deceptively simple: create a global network of transmitters that would amplify Earth's natural frequencies, overwhelming the Valith's regenerative abilities. But building such a device presented monumental challenges. For starters, the materials needed to construct the transmitters were rare and difficult to obtain. Some could only be mined in areas now under siege by the Valith. Others required complex fabrication processes that would take weeks, if not months, to complete. Clara didn't have months. Every second counted as the alien fleet advanced, closer to Earth's surface. To make matters worse, the UEDF remained skeptical of the plan. General Lewis listened to Clara's proposal with a furrowed brow, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. "Even if this works," he said gruffly, "how do you expect us to gather the resources in time? Half our supply lines are already cut off." Clara met his gaze without flinching. "We don't have another option," she said firmly. "If we don't try, we lose everything. Isn't that worth the risk?" General Lewis hesitated, torn between pragmatism and desperation. Finally, he sighed and nodded. "Do whatever you need to do," he said, "but I can't promise you'll get much support." Determined to move forward, Clara reached out to Emma Hayes, a former soldier turned rebel leader who had been organizing resistance efforts across the globe. Emma's group operated outside official channels, relying on guerrilla tactics to harass the Valith and protect civilians. Though outnumbered and outgunned, they had managed to strike several critical blows against the invaders, earning a reputation as fearless fighters. When Clara explained her plan, Emma didn't hesitate. "If it gives us a shot at winning this war," she said, "we'll do whatever it takes." Emma assembled a team of volunteers, including Kyle Dawson, a tech-savvy engineer who specialized in scavenging parts from abandoned equipment. Together, they devised a daring mission to infiltrate a heavily guarded Valith outpost located near a mountain range rich in the materials Clara needed. The operation would be dangerous, requiring precise coordination and split-second timing. Failure meant certain death, but success could turn the tide of the war. As preparations for the mission got underway, Jake Monroe and Mia Foster joined forces with Emma's group. Both pilots had grown disillusioned with the UEDF's inability to mount an effective defense, and they saw an opportunity to make a real difference. Jake's reckless bravado complemented Mia's strategic thinking, making them a valuable asset to the team. Over the course of several days, they trained alongside the rebels, learning unconventional combat techniques and familiarizing themselves with the makeshift weapons the resistance used. On the eve of the mission, the group gathered in a makeshift command center carved into the side of a hill. Maps and diagrams covered the walls, detailing every aspect of the plan. Emma stood at the front, her expression grim but resolute. "This isn't going to be easy," she said, addressing the room. "But if we pull it off, we'll have a chance to hit the Valith where it hurts. Stick to the plan, watch each other's backs, and remember why we're doing this." Jake exchanged a glance with Mia, both silently acknowledging the gravity of the moment. They had faced impossible odds before, but this felt different. This wasn't just about survival. It was about proving that humanity still had the strength to fight back. The following morning, the team set out under the cover of darkness. Their target was a sprawling Valith compound surrounded by towering walls and armed drones. Using stolen cloaking technology, they approached undetected, slipping past patrols and disabling security systems along the way. Inside the compound, chaos erupted as explosions rocked the facility, drawing the attention of nearby guards. While the Valith scrambled to respond, Jake and Mia provided aerial support, strafing enemy positions and keeping reinforcements at bay. Kyle and his team moved quickly, extracting the precious materials from the compound storage vaults. Each crate was heavy, slowing their progress, but they refused to leave anything behind. As they made their way toward the extraction point, a squad of Valith drones appeared, blocking their path. Gunfire erupted, echoing through the corridors, as the rebels fought desperately to hold their ground. In the heat of the battle, Jake spotted a drone closing in on Kyle, who was struggling to carry 2 crates at once. Without hesitation, Jake swooped down, firing a burst of plasma shots to drive the drone back. "Keep moving," he shouted over the comms. "We've got you covered." Kyle nodded, gritting his teeth as he pushed forward. Behind him, Emma led the charge, her rifle blazing as she took down one drone after another. Despite the odds, they reached the extraction point just as the last transport ship arrived to pick them up. As the engines roared to life, Jake and Mia provided covering, fire ensuring the team escaped unscathed. Back at the observatory, Clara greeted the returning heroes with a mixture of relief and gratitude. The materials they had retrieved were enough to begin constructing the resonance device, though there was still much work to be done. But for the first time since the invasion began, hope flickered in the hearts of those fighting to save Earth. The road ahead was long and fraught with danger, but humanity had taken its first step toward reclaiming its future. The Elders' warnings had not been forgotten, and neither had the determination of those willing to heed them. The materials recovered from the Valith outpost were a lifeline, but they came at a heavy cost. 2 members of Emma's resistance group had been killed during the raid, their names added to the growing list of those who had sacrificed everything for humanity's survival. The weight of their loss hung over the team as they returned to the observatory, where Clara and her team immediately began assembling the resonance device. Time was slipping away and every second counted. Clara worked tirelessly alongside Kyle Dawson, the engineer who had helped retrieve the materials. Together, They pieced together the intricate machinery needed to broadcast the song of creation. It was a delicate process, requiring precision and patience. Each component had to be calibrated perfectly. Even the slightest error could render the device useless, or worse, cause it to malfunction in catastrophic ways. Despite the pressure, Clara remained focused, her mind racing through calculations and simulations. Ryan Carter stayed close by, offering moral support and helping wherever he could. Though his expertise lay in history rather than engineering, he understood the importance of what they were building. The elders' prophecies had guided them this far, and now it was up to science to bring those ancient warnings to life. As Clara and Kyle labored over the device, Ryan translated more of the elders' teachings, searching for additional insights that might strengthen their chances of success. Meanwhile, Jake Monroe and Mia Foster continued working with Emma Hayes and her rebels. The resistance had grown bolder since the successful raid on the Valith outpost, launching hit-and-run attacks against enemy supply lines and communication hubs. These guerrilla tactics weren't enough to turn the tide of the war, but they inflicted significant damage, slowing the invaders' advance and buying precious time for Clara's team to complete their work. Jake found himself adapting quickly to the rebels' way of fighting. Where once he relied solely on speed and aggression, he now learned to think strategically, coordinating his movements with others to maximize their impact. Mia acted as the voice of reason, ensuring that every mission was carefully planned before execution. Their partnership became a cornerstone of the Resistance's efforts, earning them respect among the fighters. Emma played a crucial role in keeping morale high. She knew how easy it was to lose hope when faced with such overwhelming odds, so she made a point of celebrating small victories, even if it was just destroying a single drone or sabotaging a minor outpost. "Every strike we make weakens them," she reminded her team. "We're not just surviving, we're winning." But despite their successes, the rebels suffered setbacks too. During one particularly brutal ambush, they lost 3 more members, including a young woman named Lisa, who had only joined the resistance weeks earlier. Her death hit the group hard, reminding everyone of the fragility of life in wartime. Jake sat quietly that night, staring into the flickering flames of a campfire as memories of fallen comrades haunted him. He thought about Alex, the rookie pilot who had died during the first encounter with the Valith, and wondered if he would ever stop feeling guilty for surviving when others didn't. Mia noticed his silence and joined him by the fire. "You can't save everyone," she said gently. "All you can do is keep going, that's how we honor them." Jake nodded, though the words didn't ease the ache in his chest. Still, he took comfort in knowing he wasn't alone. The bonds he had formed with Mia, Emma, and the others gave him strength even on the darkest days. Back at the observatory, progress on the resonance device accelerated. Clara and Kyle managed to construct a prototype capable of generating the harmonic frequencies described in the Elders' prophecies. Testing it was risky. Activating the wrong frequency could attract unwanted attention from the Valith, but they couldn't afford to wait. Under the cover of night, they conducted a controlled experiment in a secluded valley surrounded by mountains. The device hummed softly as it powered up, sending waves of energy rippling through the air. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, faint vibrations began to resonate through the ground, growing stronger with each passing second. Birds took flight, startled by the sudden disturbance, and distant rocks cracked under the strain. Clara monitored the readings closely, her heart pounding with anticipation. When the test concluded, she turned to Ryan with a triumphant smile. "It works," she said. "We can scale this up." Scaling it up, however, proved to be a monumental challenge. The prototype was powerful enough to affect a small area, but broadcasting the song of creation across the entire planet required exponentially more energy. To achieve that level of power, they needed access to Earth's largest energy grid, a RDI facility located in a region currently occupied by the Valith. Emma volunteered her team for the mission, knowing it was their best chance of success. "If we can secure that grid," she told Clara, "you'll have everything you need to finish the job." The plan was risky, bordering on suicidal. The energy grid was heavily fortified, guarded by swarms of drones and automated defense systems. Breaking through would require stealth, precision, and sheer determination. Emma assembled a small strike force including Jake, Mia, and Kyle, each chosen for their unique skills. Before departing, she addressed the group, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "This isn't just about us," she said. "It's about everyone who's counting on us to win this fight. If we succeed, we give humanity a real shot at survival. If we fail—" She paused, letting the unspoken consequences hang in the air. Let's not fail. The journey to the energy grid was fraught with danger. The team traveled under the cover of darkness, avoiding patrols and navigating treacherous terrain. Along the way, they encountered survivors hiding in abandoned buildings and underground shelters. Some begged to join the fight, while others simply thanked them for trying. These encounters reinforced their resolve, reminding them why they were risking everything. When they finally reached the outskirts of the grid, the sight was daunting. Towering structures loomed overhead, surrounded by layers of defenses. Drones patrolled the skies, their glowing forms casting eerie shadows on the ground. Emma studied the layout carefully, adjusting their approach based on real-time observations. "We'll split into 2 teams," she instructed. "Jake and Mia will create a diversion to draw the drones away. Kyle and I will infiltrate the main control center." The plan went into motion without hesitation. Jake and Mia launched a series of coordinated attacks, using makeshift explosives to disable key points along the perimeter. The explosions drew the drones' attention, giving Emma and Kyle an opening to slip inside undetected. Once inside, they moved quickly, disabling security cameras and bypassing locked doors. Every step brought them closer to the central hub, where the energy grid's controls were located. As they worked, alarms blared throughout the facility, signaling the arrival of reinforcements. Jake and Mia fought valiantly to hold off the incoming forces, their ships weaving through a storm of plasma fire. Mia's calm demeanor kept them grounded, while Jake's daring maneuvers provided moments of brilliance. Together, they held the line long enough for Emma and Kyle to reach the control room. Inside, Emma and Kyle worked frantically to override the system, rerouting power to the resonance device. The process was complicated, requiring both technical skill and brute force. Just as they finished, a squad of Valith drones burst into the room, weapons trained on them. Emma raised her rifle, ready to make a final stand, but Kyle tackled her to the ground as a hail of gunfire erupted. To their surprise, the shots weren't aimed at them. They came from behind the drones. Jake and Mia had arrived just in time, their ships unleashing a barrage of firepower that decimated the enemy forces. "Thought you could use a hand," Jake quipped over the comms, his voice laced with relief. With the grid secured, Clara received confirmation that the resonance device was fully operational. From her position at the observatory, she activated the system, sending the song of creation pulsing across the planet. The effect was immediate and awe-inspiring. Vibrations rippled through the atmosphere, disrupting the Valith's regenerative abilities. Ships faltered mid-flight, their metallic surfaces cracking and crumbling. Across the globe, humans watched in stunned silence as the tide of the battle shifted decisively in their favor. For the first time since the invasion began, hope surged through humanity. The Elders' warnings had been heeded, and their wisdom had saved the world. But the war was far from over. Even as the Valith reeled from the attack, their numbers remained vast, and their resolve unbroken. The victory was temporary, a fleeting moment of triumph in a larger struggle. Still, it was enough to remind everyone what they were fighting for. Not just survival, but the chance to rebuild and restore the planet they called home. As the dust settled and the smoke cleared, humanity stood united, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The activation of the resonance device marked a turning point in the war, but it was far from an outright victory. The song of creation disrupted the Valith's regenerative abilities, causing their ships to falter and crumble under the strain. For a brief moment, humanity dared to believe they might win. But the aliens were not defeated, they were merely weakened. Their hive-mind intelligence quickly adapted, shifting tactics to compensate for the loss of their primary advantage. Clara Wells monitored the situation from the observatory, her eyes glued to the screens displaying real-time data from across the globe. The initial wave of destruction had been immense. Entire squadrons of Valith ships disintegrated mid-flight, leaving trails of debris that burned up in Earth's atmosphere. Survivors on the ground cheered, their spirits lifted by the sudden reversal of fortune. Yet Clara couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The Valith weren't creatures of chaos. They were methodical, calculating, and relentless. They wouldn't retreat, not until every last human was wiped out or enslaved. Ryan Carter shared her unease. He had spent weeks studying the Elders, prophecies piecing together fragments of ancient wisdom that hinted at the true nature of the Skyborn. According to the texts, the Valith were more than conquerors. They were scavengers, feeding on planets to sustain their biomechanical bodies. Earth wasn't just a target, it was fuel, a resource to be consumed until nothing remained. If humanity wanted to survive, they couldn't rely solely on the resonance device. They needed a way to strike at the heart of the invasion, the mothership. "We've slowed them down," Ryan said, pacing back and forth in the control room. "But we haven't stopped them. Not yet." Clara nodded, her expression grim. "You're right. The resonance device is powerful, but it's not enough to destroy them completely. We need to hit their core, the source of their power." "Jake?" Monroe overheard their conversation and stepped forward, his face set with determination. "Then let's do it," he said. "If there's a way to take out their mothership, I'm in." Mia Foster stood beside him, her calm demeanor masking the storm of emotions brewing inside her. "It won't be easy," she added. "Their defenses are still strong, even without regeneration. Getting close to the mothership will be suicide." "Maybe," Jake replied with a shrug. "But if we don't try, we lose everything anyway." Emma Hayes joined the discussion, her voice steady but resolute. "We've come this far because we've taken risks," she said. "If there's a chance to end this, we have to take it, no matter the cost." The group agreed to form a strike team tasked with infiltrating the Valith mothership. It would be a dangerous mission, requiring precision, stealth, and sheer audacity. Jake and Mia volunteered immediately, knowing their skills as pilots would be crucial. Emma insisted on joining them, unwilling to let her fighters face such peril alone. Kyle Dawson rounded out the team, his technical expertise invaluable for navigating the ship's alien systems. Preparations began almost immediately. The Resistance gathered whatever weapons and equipment they could scavenge, outfitting the team with tools designed to disable Valith technology. Clara provided them with portable versions of the resonance device, small enough to carry, but powerful, enough to disrupt localized areas of the mothership. Ryan translated additional passages from the Elders' prophecies, uncovering clues about the ship's layout and vulnerabilities. Every detail mattered. Failure meant annihilation. As the team prepared for departure, tensions ran high. The weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily on everyone's shoulders. Jake tried to lighten the mood with jokes and bravado, but even he struggled to mask his nerves. Mia noticed his attempts and offered a rare smile. "You don't have to pretend you're not scared," she said softly. "We're all scared. That's why we're doing this, to make sure no one else has to feel like this again." Jake nodded, swallowing hard. "Yeah," he muttered. "Let's just hope it works." The mission launched under the cover of darkness, with the team flying stolen Valith drones modified to mimic the invaders' signature energy signatures. The plan was simple in theory: infiltrate the mothership undetected, locate its central core, and plant explosives enhanced with resonance frequencies to ensure maximum damage. In practice, however, the operation was fraught with peril. The mothership loomed above Earth like a monstrous leviathan, its surface bristling with weapons and defenses. Getting inside would require perfect timing and flawless execution. Jake led the charge, guiding the team through a gauntlet of patrols and automated turrets. His reckless flying style proved surprisingly effective, allowing them to weave through tight spaces and avoid detection. Behind him, Mia maintained a steady stream of communication with Emma and Kyle, coordinating their movements and ensuring they stayed on track. Despite the odds, they managed to slip past the outer defenses and dock with the mothership. Inside, the environment was alien and oppressive. The walls pulsed faintly with light, as though the ship itself were alive. Strange symbols etched into the metallic surfaces glowed softly, casting eerie shadows on the ground. The air hummed with an unnatural energy, making it difficult to focus. Emma took point, her rifle at the ready as she scanned for threats. Kyle followed close behind, analyzing the ship's systems with a handheld scanner. "This place is a maze," Emma whispered, her voice tense. "Stay sharp." They moved cautiously, avoiding patrols of biomechanical drones that roamed the corridors. Every step brought them closer to their objective, but also deeper into enemy territory. At one point they encountered a massive chamber filled with pulsating pods, each containing what appeared to be dormant Veilith soldiers. The sight sent chills down their spines. If these reserves were activated, humanity wouldn't stand a chance. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached the core. It was a colossal structure suspended in the center of a cavernous room, surrounded by swirling streams of energy. The hum of the ship intensified here, vibrating through their bones. Kyle examined the core closely, his fingers flying across the controls of his scanner. "This is it," he said. "The heart of the ship. If we can plant the explosives here, it'll tear the whole thing apart." Emma nodded, signaling for Jake and Mia to set up the charges while she kept watch. Working quickly, they attached the resonance-enhanced explosives to key points around the core, synchronizing the timers to detonate simultaneously. As they finished, alarms blared throughout the ship, alerting the Veilith to their presence. "They know we're here," Mia shouted, raising her weapon as a swarm of drones descended upon them. "Fall back," Emma commanded, firing bursts of plasma to hold off the advancing enemies. "Get to the exit." The team retreated, fighting their way through waves of attackers. Jake covered the rear, laying down suppressive fire as they sprinted toward the docking bay. Along the way, Kyle tripped, dropping his scanner. Without hesitation, Mia doubled back to help him, dragging him to his feet despite the hail of gunfire around them. When they finally reached the bay, their stolen drone awaited them, engines idling. Jake jumped into the pilot's seat, revving the engines as the others scrambled aboard. Explosions rocked the ship as the charges detonated, sending shockwaves rippling through the structure. The mothership groaned and shuddered, its once impenetrable hull cracking under the strain. "Hold on," Jake yelled, slamming the throttle forward. The drone shot out of the bay just as the mothership imploded, collapsing in on itself in a fiery inferno. Debris rained down around them, forcing Jake to perform evasive maneuvers to avoid being crushed. Back on Earth, Clara and Ryan watched the spectacle unfold on their monitors. Cheers erupted in the control room as the mothership's destruction became apparent. For the first time in months, hope surged through humanity, a fragile, flickering flame, but a flame nonetheless. Yet even as celebrations broke out, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that the war wasn't truly over. The Veilith had been dealt a devastating blow, but their species spanned the stars. This fleet might be gone, but others could follow. Humanity had won a battle, but the larger struggle for survival was far from finished. As the dust settled and the skies cleared, the survivors reflected on the cost of their victory. Millions had died, cities lay in ruins, and the scars of war would linger for generations. But amidst the devastation, a new spirit emerged, one of unity, resilience, and determination. The elders' warnings had been heeded, and their wisdom had saved the world. Now it was up to humanity to honor that legacy by rebuilding and preparing for whatever challenges lay ahead. The destruction of the Veilith mothership marked a turning point in humanity's fight for survival. But it was not the end of the war. The massive alien fleet that had once loomed over Earth like an unbreakable storm began to retreat, their ships scattering into the void. Without the central core of the mothership to guide them, the invaders' hive mind faltered, leaving the remaining forces disorganized and vulnerable. For the first time in months, Earth's skies were clear, and the survivors on the ground dared to breathe freely. Yet the victory came at a heavy cost. Cities lay in ruins, their streets deserted, and buildings reduced to rubble. Millions had perished in the initial invasion, and countless more had died in the desperate battles that followed. The scars of war were everywhere. Burned-out vehicles littered highways, fields were blackened from plasma fire, and entire regions remained uninhabitable due to radiation left behind by the Valith weapons. The planet itself seemed to mourn, its natural rhythms disrupted by the chaos that had unfolded. Despite the devastation, hope flickered in the hearts of those who remained. Clara Wells stood on the balcony of the observatory, gazing out at the horizon as the sun rose over a battered but still beautiful world. She thought about the countless lives lost and the sacrifices made by so many, not just soldiers, but ordinary people who had risen to extraordinary challenges. Humanity had been pushed to the brink, yet it had refused to break. Ryan Carter joined her, carrying 2 cups of steaming coffee. He handed one to Clara before leaning against the railing beside her. "We did it," he said softly, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Against all odds, we actually pulled it off." Clara nodded, sipping her coffee slowly. "For now," she replied. "But this isn't over. The Valith might be gone, but there could be others out there. We need to learn from this, to be ready next time." Ryan agreed, his mind drifting back to the Elders' prophecies. Those ancient warnings had proven true, guiding humanity through its darkest hour. But they had also revealed something else: the importance of listening, not just to each other, but to the wisdom of the past. Ryan resolved to dedicate his life to preserving that knowledge, ensuring it would never again be forgotten. In the weeks that followed, humanity began the long process of rebuilding. Governments that had once been divided came together, forming a new global coalition focused on recovery and defense. Resources were pooled, technologies shared, and efforts coordinated to restore what had been lost. Cities rose from the ashes, powered by renewable energy systems designed to minimize environmental impact. Schools reopened, teaching children not only about science and history, but also about resilience, cooperation, and respect for the planet. Jake Monroe and Mia Foster played key roles in the reconstruction effort. Their heroism during the final battle had earned them widespread admiration, but they shunned fame, preferring instead to focus on training the next generation of pilots. At a newly established academy, they taught young recruits how to fly, fight, and think strategically. Jake's reckless daring balanced perfectly with Mia's calm precision, creating a dynamic partnership that inspired their students. "Remember," Jake often told his class, "it's not just about flying fast or shooting straight. It's about knowing when to push forward and when to hold back. Trust your instincts, but trust your teammates even more." Mia echoed his sentiments, emphasizing the importance of adaptability. "Things won't always go according to plan," she said. "That's why you train, to be ready for anything. And no matter how tough things get, never lose sight of why you're fighting." Emma Hayes and Kyle Dawson continued leading the resistance movement, which evolved into a network of scouts and engineers tasked with monitoring Earth's borders and developing advanced defense systems. Using salvaged Valith technology, Kyle created innovative tools capable of detecting potential threats before they reached the planet. Emma traveled across the globe, recruiting volunteers and spreading awareness about the importance of vigilance. Together, they ensured that humanity would never again be caught off guard. Back at the observatory, Clara and Ryan collaborated on a groundbreaking project, a planetary shield powered by harmonic frequencies similar to the Song of Creation. By amplifying Earth's natural vibrations, the shield would create an invisible barrier capable of repelling hostile forces. It was a bold idea, years away from completion, but it represented humanity's determination to protect itself and its future. As work on the shield progressed, Ryan published a comprehensive account of the war, weaving together historical research, personal experiences, and insights from the Elders' prophecies. His book became required reading worldwide, sparking renewed interest in ancient cultures and their teachings. People began to see the value in preserving traditions once dismissed as outdated, recognizing them as vital sources of knowledge and perspective. One evening, As Ryan signed copies of his book at a community center, a young girl approached him shyly. Her name was Lily, and she held a tattered copy of his earlier works in her hands. "Mr. Carter," she asked hesitantly, "what happened during the war? My dad says you know everything about it." Ryan knelt down to meet her eye level, smiling warmly. "It's a long story," he said, glancing briefly at the crowd gathered around him. "But I'll tell you the most important part. We learned to listen. To each other, to our past, and to the universe itself. That's how we survived, and that's how we'll keep moving forward." Lily's eyes widened with curiosity, and she nodded earnestly. "I want to learn too," she said, "so I can help protect Earth someday." Ryan patted her shoulder gently, feeling a surge of pride. This was the legacy of the war, not the destruction or the loss, but the spirit of unity and purpose it had ignited. A new generation was stepping up, eager to carry the torch and ensure that humanity's mistakes would not be repeated. Months turned into years, and Earth slowly healed. Forests regrew where bombs had scorched the land, rivers ran clean again, and wildlife returned to areas once abandoned. The scars of war remained visible, serving as reminders of the fragility of peace. Memorials were erected in cities around the world, honoring those who had given their lives to defend the planet. Each monument bore the same inscription: "Together, we endured. Together, we prevail." On a quiet hilltop overlooking a bustling city, Jake and Mia stood side by side, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink. They rarely spoke about the war anymore, choosing instead to focus on the present and the future. But sometimes, moments like this brought memories flooding back: the fear, the loss, the triumphs, and the bonds forged in the heat of battle. "You think we'll ever face something like that again?" Jake asked quietly, breaking the silence. Mia shrugged, her expression thoughtful. "Probably. Space is big, and we're small. But if we do, we'll handle it. We've got the tools, the knowledge, and the will to survive." Jake smiled, nudging her playfully. "Yeah. And if anyone tries to mess with us, they'll regret it." They shared a laugh, the sound carrying on the evening breeze. Below them, the city buzzed with life. Children playing in parks, workers heading home after long days, families gathering for meals. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger, united by shared struggles and a renewed sense of purpose. Farther away, Clara and Ryan met for dinner at a cozy cafe. Over plates of simple food, they discussed their latest projects and reflected on how far they'd come. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges yet unknown. But for the first time in a long time, they felt hopeful. "We did good," Clara said, raising her glass in a toast. "To the past, the present, and whatever comes next. To humanity," Ryan added, clinking his glass against hers. "May we always remember and always listen." As night fell, stars twinkled in the heavens, their light reaching Earth across unimaginable distances. Somewhere out there, among the vast expanse of space, untold wonders and dangers awaited. But for now, humanity rested, grateful for the second chance it had earned, and determined to make the most of it.